This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
This is Faith Under Fire from Family Life News. I'm Greg Gillispie, and today we talk with an attorney from the Independence Law Center about a situation that arose in the Veterans Administration in Pennsylvania. Randy Wenger is the chief counsel. Randy, welcome to Family Life. Tell us about the legal complaint you're filing against the VA.
So Chaplain Rusty Trubey was preaching a sermon at Veterans Administration Hospital in Coatesville, Pennsylvania on Romans 1. And following his sermon, a police officer who works there at the Veterans Administration showed up and spoke with him after the sermon because apparently he received some criticism that day on the content of the sermon. And that criticism included criticism from his supervisor, who took him off of chaplain duty for many, many months, would no longer allow him to do what chaplains do, which is deliver sermons. And even after we got involved and attorneys from First Liberty Institute got involved, the Veterans Administration continues to want to censor his sermons. So this shouldn't be happening. Police officers should not be showing up after a chapel service, and chaplains should be free to deliver sermons based on the Bible, not punished. So government officials should never be in a position for censoring sermons. This is just another one of those examples of woke policies that need to be removed.
And this happened in Pennsylvania. Give us the timeline for that.
Yeah, he preached a sermon in June of 2024, and it was not until after Thanksgiving of 2024 that he was allowed to return to his chaplain duties. And that's really what he loves. The reason that he works at the Veterans Administration is because he feels called by God to minister to people, to preach sermons and to be able to sit down and counsel folks one-on-one. So to have those duties taken away from him is more than just a shift in a job. It's taking away his ministry.
So during that months-long period that he was between that sermon that crossed a line somehow and being able to go back to his full duties, he was still an employee of the Veterans Administration during that time?
Yeah, he was working for the Veterans Administration. They had him stocking shelves instead. And that's an important job, but that's not the ministry that he was called to do. So he very much missed being a chaplain, being on duty there, delivering sermons.
So as he was making his gospel presentation there with the assembled group who were free to come or go as they choose, what other feedback did he hear from people? One person complained, 17 people complained, 85% of them were happy. What did he hear after the actions the VA took?
Well, he said that most people stayed there to the end and listened to his sermon, and it was a sermon like you or I would have heard going to church. And of course, it was Romans 1, so it dealt with sexual sin, and that can be a live wire issue in our culture today. So I suppose you could say that the Bible had its intended effect, where the Bible is meant to convict people, and some people didn't appreciate the truth that was being spoken. But his sermon was a solid sermon based on the Bible. And you should never be punished. The role for a chaplain is to deliver a sermon based on, Catholic chaplains will do a Catholic service, Jewish chaplains will do a Jewish service, and Protestant chaplains will do a Protestant service. And he preached a sermon consistent with Protestant theology.
Randy Wenger is chief counsel with the Independence Law Center. He's telling us about a Pennsylvania VA chaplain who was taken off of preaching duties this past summer and fall because of the content of one of his sermons while he was on duty. As you've been looking into this case, does this kind of thing happen with government-funded chaplaincies elsewhere, or was this a rarity?
The more that we've dug into it, the more that we're hearing that this can happen in other places as well. So I don't know that this is an across-the-board policy that the Veterans Administration has, but more something that can crop up from place to place. But our hope is that with a new secretary for the VA, who himself is a former chaplain, that our pleas in this case will not be falling on deaf ears, but instead to somebody who truly recognizes the importance of the chaplaincy and of religious liberty, and that this is an issue that we will be able to work out not only for Chaplain Trubey, but something that we can work out so that the chaplains throughout the Corps there at the VA will be able to carry out their duties and serve the people that they're called to serve.
I can imagine people who are listening to our conversation wondering, the situations were very different last summer. The renewal of his ministry happened apparently after the November election. Are politics at play that released him from that banishment?
I would certainly say we're in a friendlier environment for someone like Chaplain Trubey to be able to carry out his religious faith. So it certainly becomes a lot easier when you have folks in the administration that understand the purposes of a chaplain. So even the head of the VA, the new secretary, is himself a former chaplain. So we're hopeful that this is something that can be worked out.
Where does that legal complaint stand right now?
Well, we haven't actually filed the complaint yet. We've drafted the complaint, but we've filed a demand letter with the Veterans Administration, trying to work out things amicably, because we do believe that this is something that should be worked out amicably. But if that's not the case, we are prepared to go to court, because we need to be protecting those who are serving our country, and serving our country even in the way that the Chaplain Trubey is. There's a real purpose behind the chaplain corps, both at the VA and within the military, and we need to uphold the ability for chaplains to serve our servicemen.
Randall Wenger is chief counsel of the Independence Law Center about a situation that arose in the Veterans Administration in Pennsylvania for the way it took preaching privileges away from one of their chaplains. We'll continue to follow that situation. I'm Greg Gillispie, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.